Proverbs, the first chapter, the 8th verse. Proverbs 1, verse 8. My son, hear the instruction of thy father, and forsake not the law of thy mother. For they shall be an ornament of grace unto thy head, and chains about thy neck. My son, if sinners entice thee, consent thou not. If they say, come with us, let us lay wait for blood. Let us lurk privately for the innocent without cause. Let us swallow them up alive as the grave, and whole as those that go down into the pit. We shall find all precious substance. We shall fill our houses with spoil. Cast in thy lot among us, let us all have one purse. My son, walk not thou in the way with them. Refrain thy foot from their path. For their feet run to evil and make haste to shed blood. Surely in vain the net is spread in the sight of any bird, and they lay wait for their own blood. They lurk privately for their own lives. So are the ways of everyone that is greedy of gain, which taketh away the life of the owners thereof. And you may be seated. And I want to use for a thought this morning, where have all the fathers gone? Where have all the fathers gone? I have an inside track. I have an inside knowledge that some people are not privy to. And I thank God for it, because I can kind of see our future as people in society. I can kind of see where the future is going. And that inside track happens to be, I'll say part owner, which I don't consider myself that, of a daycare. I see a lot of mothers come in, and I see a lot of fathers come in, mostly mothers, every now and then fathers. And many times you don't know where the father is. You never see the father. You only see the children and the mother. I wonder sometimes, and it is a sad thing, because there are little boys that really, really need a hug from a man. And whereas I am there to do that, I recognize and realize this is a sexually satanic charged generation in which we live in. I always do it out in the open, and I always do it only if the child initiates the hug. And even with that, you're taking a chance. But to hug, boy or girl, but a little boy, I'll say in this case, and to see and feel and experience the relief that comes to them from a person as myself who's a real man. I'm going to boast a little bit now. I'm not interested in your child. I'm not interested in nothing gay. I got 206 bones, and every one of them is 206 muscles, and every one of them is, let's see, 206 bones, 603 muscles, and every one of them is straight. But it's a good thing that I am there to hug them, because they need it. It is a bad thing that they need it because they don't get it from the house. Because I can only be a man that shows interest in their future. Where have all the fathers gone? The thought of fatherhood is gone for one reason, because of the selfishness the self-serving attitude of many men. Fatherhood is gone because of the self-serving attitude of many women. One woman came to me that didn't have children, and she just opened up and began to talk, and I don't know why she was telling me the things she was telling me. But her story went something like this. A young lady, she said, I'm going to have a child probably next year, not this year. And it's going to either be by, and I'm going to make fictitious names, Tom, not Robert, he would make a good dad, Tom or Robert or Joe. No, Tom or Joe. And in about, I'm going to wait 3 years, I'm going to have another one. And this was her plan. That's single mom's planning to be a single mom. You don't expect to have a father. You don't really need a father. You just need a seed if you think like that. When I look at a lot of the fathers not being in place, I said I wasn't going to get on it, but a lot of times it's the woman's fault. The way the woman designed it, they set it up. When I look at the wise man Solomon, and I love to stay with the Bible, and I like to make the Bible relevant. That's why I started out talking about us. As you can see from these many years ago, some of the issues and things that went on, that goes on today, went on then. This passage has always caught my attention. This is not something I just thought of or got out of the scriptures last week. I've looked at this, and the first time that it really grabbed me, it sounded so much like the boys who became men, and I use that term very loosely, males that are adults, let me use that term, of today. He begins to say that the father says to them, my son, walk not in the way with them. Refrain from the foot of their path. What kind of people are you telling them? The 10th verse says, my son, if sinners entice thee, consent thou not. You know, I found there are some sinners that are not criminals. You don't have to be a criminal, let me establish that, just because you are a sinner. Right. Sin is one level, that's God's level. Crime is another level, that's the state of Indiana or the state of this, or the country's laws. You don't have to be a criminal just because you are a sinner. However, I have found out that it's a very thin line between living your life in sin and being a criminal. Some folks, I don't see anything wrong with this, an open bottle and I'm drinking and driving. What's the big deal? We need to kind of, I won't say get over that. We need to care about that still. But let's face it, I think everyone in here has witnessed riding down the street, sitting at the stoplight and smelling all kind of weed in the car. And I guess that's all right to do. Both of them will intoxicate you. I'm going to use that term. But he says, my son, if sinners entice thee, he says, consent thou not. Don't be a part of it. This is what the father is saying to his son. Now, to put it in perspective, Solomon's father was King David. Let's talk about that maybe. His daddy was not perfect, but his daddy had some things in place according to the laws of God. And if you notice, David was a worshiper, and to be a worshiper, it doesn't mean you just engage with the Lord in praise or worship every now and then with uplifted hands. But a real worshiper, there's actually a condition of heart that makes a person a real worshiper. And I can look at all that David has written and found, and I can get from that he was a real worshiper, which meant that he had a love for God. And therefore, when he raised his children, he instilled the love of God in his children. Where have all the fathers gone. We taught generations ago now, and I'm going to say my generation was made to go to church. I'm not ashamed to say it. I'm 69 years old. My generation was made to go to church. My generation, I strongly blame for the next generation because they said I hated being made to go to church. So one thing I'm not going to do is make my children go to church. And we can see the fruits and the results of that because that generation came along and said, well, I didn't go to church. I'm not going to make my children go either. And now we got a bunch of hellions that are doing the very same thing that we see in these scriptures. There's somebody you want to avoid in society. Folks running around with guns because they don't know when their life will be threatened. Right. And I get it. I didn't say I agree with it, but I get it. My son, if sinners entice thee, consent thou not. If they say, come with us, this is what the father is telling his son to run from. If they say, come with us, let us wait for blood. Let us lurk privately for innocent blood without any cause. There was a time that you did not hardly ever hear of someone in the street being shot or killed or come up missing or anything if they didn't do anything wrong to somebody. Usually, I'm going to say back in the 60s and 70s and maybe most of the 80s, people had a vengeance against you. You had done something to them. You was not innocent blood. You had done something to them. And in one way or another, they were seeking revenge on you. Not to say that was right, but now you can just be innocent. You can be minding your own business. You can try to say, I'm just going to go to Kroger's and come back home and I ain't going to bother nobody. I ain't going to meddle. I'm not going to get in nobody's business. And that still won't stop the chance of somebody trying to do something to you evil, innocent blood. Without cause, this thing is going on. He said, let us swallow them up, alive as the grave and whole as those that go down into the pit. For we shall find all precious substance, whatever this person has, that you might get from them. This is a day and age where so many people are trying to get what you have, and you worked for yours. You did yours the right way, I'm going to say. You did yours the hard way, and they try to rob you. I don't really have to buy it. Kias and Hyundais are the most broken into car because they refuse to use the chip. They now, I think the government's on them now. They begin to make the new cars. A little thing to keep the cost of the car down, the price of the car down. They refuse to use the chip. So I've been to many car auctions, and you'll see that the steering wheel is cracked and the passenger rear window is broken out. They said that's the only window that you can get in. You see that over and over and over. And I see some nice late model Kias and Hyundais that I will not buy because I'm buying them to resell. And why would I buy a car to resell when it's so easily, you can so easily break into the car? So, but that's not, but the problem there is folks taking your stuff. You went out in most cases and you bought that Kia or that Hyundai. You did it the right way. You have a loan on it, but somebody says, I'll just take whatever I want. They've been taking these cars and using them for all kind of crime. And then your name, who's sitting down watching a movie at your house, minding your own business, they turn to you and call your house and say, what is going on? Why were you? And you have to prove that you weren't there, or they already know if you reported the car is stolen. But the things that go, people that take advantage of other people because they refuse to do the right thing, because fathers in many cases, according to the scriptures, have not properly trained and raised their children. There's a whole nother society where people understand that what you get, you have to work for it. You have to go through a school system. You have to find a way to do the things right to get what you want. There is a right way, and there's definitely a wrong way to get things, to obtain things in life. And somebody else's goods is not the right way. I know we all got our issues. We all got our struggles. We all got our problems. I'm not bragging, but But I told a guy the other day, I've never wanted something that was somebody else's. I've never wanted to steal something that was somebody else's. I feel like if I don't have it or I can't get it, I just won't have it. Or I can get my own if I can. But I've never wanted to steal, rob somebody and look over my shoulder every second of the way because I know I've obtained it in some illegal manner. But there's a lot of folks that's just the way they do life. They want your stuff because fathers haven't inputted and downloaded into them the right way to do things. Thank God if you have a father that raised you the right way. And thank God that he had a father that raised him the right way. Sometimes this thing is generational. And when you have a man that never done right, your grandfather never done right, and your father never done right, how do you know how to do right? Unless some man grabbed you and taught you some things. Listen, this is the right way, boy. That way there will take you to destruction. That way will take you to an early grave. Now, I know there's a thought going around, and I've been debunking it all through the scriptures. There's a thought going around, you're not going to die before your time. Just let me speak very briefly into that, and then I might come back some other week at another time and point and begin to address it from the scriptures. True enough, God knows when each and every one of us is going to die because he knows everything. But the Bible plainly states to me in several different places that there's a way that you can live to shorten your life. There's a pathway, a road that you can take that says that road leads to destruction. And if you decide to take that road, we expect you to wind up in prison. If you decide to take that road, we expect you to die early. If you decide to take that road, I don't expect you to live to be 80 years old. If you decide to go that route has proven in the past it will take you. If you decide to do that with your body, you just might get AIDS. If you decide that's the way to go, you just might die of cancer. There's ways there's things you can do. I won't go into that because a lot of y'all don't believe it. I had 30 years old as some of y'all. 30, yes, I understand. When you've seen so many of your friends died 19, 22, and 23, 30 is an old man. 30 is just beginning to see life. He says, my son, if sinners entice thee, don't go with them. I'm just going to rephrase it that way. He says, come with us. If they say, come with us, let us lay wait for blood. Let us lurk privately for the innocent without cause. Let us swallow them up alive as a grave and whole, as those that go down into the pit. We shall find all their precious substance. Go with me, boy. Go with me. Let's start a gang. This reminds me so much of gang warfare. A group of boys decided because they didn't have the instruction of their father, and the father was there. I talked to Mother's Day about women being human, mothers being human shock absorbers. Well, fathers are the stabilizing force. And if you don't have a real father in your home, you're in trouble if you don't follow the instruction of some real man, because somebody has to get a hold of our youth. Somebody has to say, I watched a little bit of the wars last night, and I'm amazed at what we call entertainment and the messages that are being put across in rap and hip-hop. And you think that's real life. And unfortunately for you, it will be real life. And it's so far from what life really should be. But when it comes to raising your children, and you only live once, they said. Now let me reverse that. When it comes to raising your children, you ought to be downloading some stuff into them that will teach them longevity, teach them prosperity, teach them health, teach them strength, teach them moral and values, and it should be loaded down to them so strongly that you're not just teaching them, but they will teach it to their children, and their children will teach it to their children. You'll be long gone off of the earth as time continues to go by, but the thing you did right with your child, your very child, your son, your daughter, it proved to pan out through all the generations. Where have the real fathers gone? Where have they gone? This father's telling him, don't get with the wrong crowd. He says, there's some people, there's a group of children, boys saying, let us swallow them up. We shall find all precious substance. We shall fill our houses with spoil. Spoil is when you see that word spoil in the scriptures, it's talking about going into someone's house and taking whatever out you want that is theirs. You spoil them. an army would fight another army, the army that won would take their women, whatever women they wanted from them. They take all of their gold. They take anything that was worth anything that was valuable that made them prosperous. They take anything they had that was spoiling them. And he's saying here, in a sense, he's saying, we shall fill our houses with the spoil of people that you have done in. He says, cast in thy lots among us. Let us all have one purse. He says, the 15th verse, my son, walk not thou in the way with them. Refrain thy foot from their path. You know, I think when the Bible talks about walking and feet, that's a simple way to put it. In other words, your lifestyle can't go that direction. You can't walk in the path. He says, blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of the sinner, or sitteth in the seat of the scornful, for their way is destruction. There are some ways you can live, once again I'm going to say it, that is not prosperous. I was teaching Sunday school years ago I was teaching Sunday school, and the age was juniors and seniors in high school, and I had a male co-teacher. He'd teach one week and I would teach another week, and I was just up and I just said something, and at the end of the class he said, man, that really stuck out with me. I said, well, what was that? I was telling them, after going to prison ministry so many years, I was telling him, I said, you know, I've seen the other way. I've seen the way we do things when we don't do things right. I've seen how I don't mind robbing a bank or a village pantry or shooting it up or taking somebody's drugs, and now my life ain't worth a plug nickel because the drug dealer knows me, and I've seen how I sell drugs, and I've seen that other way because I've been in prison and I've prison ministry, and I've talked to so many that wished they had not done what they done, and some of them wished they hadn't got caught. They're gonna do it again if they get out, quite frankly. But I've seen all kinds of people, and the thing that stuck out to the co-teacher was, I said, I found out that kind of life has a poor retirement plan. What do you mean? I said, many of them never get to retire. They never get to retirement age. As a matter of fact, like the sports star that's the baddest guy on the field, or the baddest soccer player, or the baddest football player, they got about 10, 12 good years if it's football, and so it has a poor retirement plan. If you're wrapping it all up in that, what are you going to do after that? It has a poor retirement plan. The things that we invest our life in, instead of taking this brain that has so much capability. I'm going to tell you, I talk about it all the time, and I thought about it just yesterday. It comes up in my mind. There was two great women in my life when I was a child, two great women. One was my mother. My mother was a great influence in my life. She taught me a lot of good things. The other great woman was a sixth grade teacher named Genevieve Chenault. And at the time I passed through the sixth grade, she had been teaching about 39 years. And she had a big, robust body, and she was round and had big old chest. And she was nothing to play with. And that was back in the day. It's going to sound old, and I am old. This is back in the day when you walked to school, and then you walked home for lunch. And one day we was walking home for lunch, and she stopped me before I could get out of the room. I was all by myself, and she poked me all in my chest. I hadn't been in the room in that class long, that grade level long. And she said, boy, you ain't gonna play in this room. She said, I saw your IQ, and you're smart. I couldn't get over that. That stuck with me forever. Because Stevie Williams was smart. Stevie Williams hung with the bad boys, which I was one of them, hung with the bad boys and got straight A's. He knew when to leave us alone, and he knew when to get with us. Stevie Williams was smart, not me, but when she told me I was smart, she said, I seen your IQ, and you ain't gonna play in my room. You go. And that woman changed. She turned my life around. A sixth grade teacher. She let me know that I had something up here, and all of us got more than we think we got, and we're not using much of it. But when it comes to being the father, I need to figure out how I can be a positive influence to that child, because there's more to me being a father than just making a baby. I can make a baby. You can make a baby. I might still can make a baby. I don't know. I ain't gonna be doing it. But Lord, that's the easy part. Oh, but can you make a father? Can you made a baby? Can you make yourself a father now? Can you download and put the right thing into that child? Do you have enough knowledge and wisdom to say, this is the way to go, and that's the way to go. This is the wrong way. Can you be like this man in the Bible? Say, refrain from those that are running in the street. We got so many of our young males now that are running the streets, and they're nothing but a hazard. They're nothing but somebody to avoid. You can't even look at them or speak to them. If you smile at them and say hello, it's wrong. You don't even know how to interact with them. You might get your brains blown out just for speaking. I love to go back to a society where we can talk to one another and we can deal with one another on a level, and you can bring your son to me and I can tell him that's not the way to go. You're going the wrong way. I'm going to tell you which way that takes you. I'm going to tell you what that will do for you. That'll take you down, down, down. I wish we had a day like that. But where are all the fathers? It's left up to a few men. I saw something yesterday on Facebook. Talked about a man raising a child that's not his own. And the men jumped in. Said he was a clown. One guy said, what do I get out of it? I said, yeah, you just stay over by your lonesome self. It's a sacrifice. You're supposed to download, put into, and not expect back. If you get something back out of fatherhood, great. The Bible clearly states to me what you get out of it, though, is the product that you raise, right? If you just stay with the book of Proverbs, he says so much. He says so much about the things Solomon does, who wrote the book of Proverbs, that his mother did for him and that his father did for him. He says so much about how it changed or made his life better. He talks about the peace it gave. A lot of stuff that people aren't experiencing today, a lot of angry young males, a lot of angry young females. Because what I'm saying to men today also applies to women. Yeah. There are some women, you better, she's cute, she's everything from now. You better turn and run as fast, put on your best jogging, run as fast as you can the other way. Yeah. When you find out what you don't have up there and in there. It goes both ways. One of my jobs is to marry people as a public servant. It's probably my least favorite. I'd rather do a funeral. Wow. That's not my favorite either, but I'd rather do a funeral. Because so many people that you run into, boys, well, I'll say young men, young women, are not marriage material. When you don't see yourself for who you are, I married one young man to my cousin, brought him in my basement, done some premarital counseling. I asked him the question that I always ask. God gave me this. Knowing all that you know about yourself, your ups, your downs, your private thinking, the person you know when you look in the mirror, the real person that you may not have shown him or her, your hang-ups, your setbacks, your challenges, your vices, all that stuff. Would you want to be married to you? I had only one clown that said, yeah, I think I'm a good catch. He said he thinks he's a good catch. I married him. I don't know when or how long they were together, but I saw her about 2.5 years later. She walked into the daycare with like a 1-year-old with a different man. Not the boy, he didn't last long. Whew. He's a good catch. He was a legend in his own eyes, we call it. Legend in his own mind. He obviously wasn't a legend to her. He wasn't such, I don't know what happened, but is there enough material out here to even marry? My son, walk not in the way with them, refrain thy foot from their path. This is what the father's telling this young man, his son. For their feet run to evil and make haste to shed blood. Do you have the male figure in your life to tell you don't go that way? Or this is what you got to do, Doc. This is what they're doing now. Here's how you get the money. Just get the green. Yeah, well, first of all, I won't let people tell me how to get rich and they're broke busted. Some of us, we are asking the wolf where to keep our chickens. Y'all gonna catch that later. Don't ask the wolf where to keep your chickens. All your chickens don't come up missing. We're asking people that have not really made it in some area their advice and taking their advice. And I really don't get it. Didn't work for them. Why would you ask them? He says, don't walk in their path, refrain your foot from their path, for their feet run to evil to shed blood. Surely in vain the net is spread in the sight of any bird, and they lay wait for their own blood. I don't know if people that do wrong understand what comes around goes around. Y'all use the word karma. Right. I simply use the Bible. It says, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. For whatever you do to them, right, what measure, what judgment you give them, it's going to come back to you. Yeah. He says, they lay wait for their own blood. They don't realize they are. They lurk privily for their own lives. So are the ways of everyone that is greedy of gain. I found that people, if you ever want to see a person lose their sense of reasoning, just lose their mind. Yeah. Don't even sound like them. Bring up money. Yeah. I was the treasurer for our religious organization for 8 years. And 4 years before that, I was assistant treasurer. I'm amazed at what money does to people. I am amazed at how, and someone else's money in some cases just does us in. We can't even think straight. We start sounding just as crazy. Says, is that Ronald? Ronald never talked that far off. You brought up money. Right. Now I'm talking off. Right. Families have fallen apart because of money. So I've heard that, I haven't heard this statistic in a long time. Most divorces are in one way or another caused around the thought of money. Yeah. Man, we're celebrating 50 years, hopefully this Saturday, of marriage, and my wife and I was broke so long together. All we did was looked at each other and laughed and punched our way forward again. She said she don't remember this. I remember when we couldn't pay our gas bill, and the lights flickered and turned off. I also remember when we sent the cable man up the pole for $20 and cut every movie channel on we wanted. I ain't always been saved. So I remember going out in the alley and I had the long utensil that turned the gas on and off. The man turned it off. I went and turned it back on. I remember those days. You didn't pay. You turn on the faucet, no water coming out. Right. I remember those days, but that didn't make me want to leave my marriage. It didn't make her want to leave me. Some people, that's all they think. And then, let me move on. My son, walk not in that way. So are the ways of everyone that is greedy of gain. We all should want great gain, but to be greedy, which taketh away the life of the owners thereof. I rightfully owned it. Somebody killed me to get it because they was greedy to have it. You got to watch everything you got. I remember when I was a young man, my friend was a known thief. He was my age. He was born the day after me, same year. He was a known thief. And I just, I didn't mess with him when he went certain places. But there was a man that worked on cars, and I'd say an old man, he's probably about 58. years old. He seemed like an old man to us. He was working on cars. And Michael Hackney liked to work on cars. I didn't mean to call his name. He liked to work on cars, and I did too. I wanted to learn. He let him work on cars with him. He was concerned about his tools coming up missing. The man looked at me and said, "Oh, no, you can't help me. I can look at your eyes and see you're a thief." That man's discernment was way off. My daddy had so many tools compared to him, and I felt bad about it, but I let him alone. If that's what you see in me, you go right on with Michael, and I hope Michael don't rob you blind, because if you could see it in eyes, you sure missed it in his. Amen. Where have all the fathers gone that are fathers that download, input, plant in the child? I found out being a parent. Being a grandparent is a great thing, and I'll tell you why. You have a second chance for your mess ups. There's a lot of discipline I did that I really didn't need to do. Because parents have a tendency, if they're good ones, to be on each and every little bitty thing. Yeah. And I'm thinking, is that going to impact their future or the way they think in the future? Yeah. Sharing is important. Yeah, you need to get on that. Something like that. They need to learn how to share. But also, you need to teach them how not to be taken advantage of. And a lot of stuff I was into, I said, I could have let that pass. I could have let that pass. Here's the main things to raising children. This is what's going to impact their lives and their thinking and formulate their thoughts forever. And I'm just going to tell you, 2 years old, boy, they take in everything. If you say it, they got it, whether it's right or wrong. If you do it, they got it, whether it's right or wrong. They're sponges, human sponges. But we got to make sure that what we're telling them is something that's valuable, important. But do we know it? Therein lies the problem. Was we taught it? I've seen people that wants replicas of, you want your little child to look like a hippo. Your child ain't supposed to look like Lil Wayne. If that's what you want, that's what you're going to get. We're raising stuff, and by the time they're 12, we can't even stand them. Because of what we didn't put in them. Where have all the fathers gone? There's still some around. Thank God for Father's Day. Thank God for honoring men who are real fathers. Thank God for fathers. I love to see men bring their children to the daycare occasionally. Don't have to be every day, or pick them up. They realized when they had a child, they didn't just have a child. They are a father. F-A-T-H-E-R, father. A lot of men, a lot of males, a lot of seeds, but where have all the fathers gone? They're still around. They need to make themselves highly visible and present in the life of their child. God bless each and every one of you. Amen.